Hello and welcome along to the VMTV Rugby Pod. Matt Williams and Alan Quinlan, the usual amigos with me as we look ahead to the final test of the autumn. Alan, firstly to you, yes, a change of team last weekend. That's what we want to touch on first. But a good win against Fiji and debutants as well. Gus McCarthy, Cormac Izachukwu, and I suppose a big talking point, Sam Prendergast starts for the first time for Ireland, and he does pretty well, doesn't he? A rocky start, but he controlled the game.
Yeah, it was a positive outing for Ireland. I think they needed a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a feel-good factor, and they got that. I think. I'm not sure what Matt thinks, but I was obviously delighted Ireland got their flow going, and they looked pretty good at times. They created a lot of line breaks, could have scored another 2 or 3 tries, but Fiji were disappointing. We played them in 17 and in 22, and they were much more competitive, much more dangerous. And unfortunately, we got not a great version of this Fiji side. We saw what they did at the World Cup last year, beating Australia, running England close in the quarter-final, caused them a lot of problems. And yeah, they looked disorganized, work rate poor at times, and just, I think guys shooting out of the line, trying to put in big shots and just didn't stay connected. Ireland's attack, they got so many line breaks in the game, loads of offloads, and they cut them apart really. And then when Fiji tried to create something, Ireland shut them down. Exactly what you want to do against a side like Fiji. So very positive. And it's one of those ones you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I've probably used that phrase a few times during the week. If you win really well, you'll have people like me and more so Matt Williams questioning the how good Fiji were, and then if you don't win by a big score, well then we all there's a kind of a negative feel about the whole thing. So positive day. I think Andy Farrell would have been very pleased, and but I don't think any of them will get carried away and think, God, we're back on track, everything is perfect now. They got a lot of opportunities from Fiji and they took them. So you can only do what's given to you. And that was really positive from Ireland. So, and again, just that feeling in the camp afterwards to be able to kind of pat each other on the back and say that felt good there. It's going to be a different story this week. It's going to be a bigger challenge, less time, less space on the ball, less opportunities. But I think that was a good boost for the squad last weekend.
Matt, just before the team news comes in, because we are pretty much live at 2:00, Fiji very disappointing. What did you like about the Irish performance?
I think Al's described it really well. Like when you play a team like that, if you don't beat them by 50, everyone criticises you. And when you beat them by 50, everyone goes, well, it's only Fiji. And they were poor. I was like Al. I was expecting a lot more from that Fijian side. But if we turn that on its head, Gus McCarthy, first game for Ireland, he had a fantastic game. Not a good game. Fantastic game in attack. Like he did really, really well. One or two nervy throw-ins. Mea culpa. I said before the game he was a brilliant line-out thrower. His first one was crooked. So, Gus, I take full responsibility for that, mate. Blame me, not you. I thought he had a great game. I thought Clarkson off the bench at tight head, again, a really positive display. Building confidence within a young guy at tight head, I think they're really important things. Craig Casey, excellent. I think one of the most competent displays I've seen from Craig in that he hardly made an error. Everything he did was, his passing was good, his decision making was good, and Sam Prendergast, apart from a bad sin bin and a couple of bad kicks early on, what I really liked about Sam's play was how he mentally recovered. He didn't let that weigh him down. He came back, guided the team around the field. When you're scoring 50 points, obviously your pack's slaying down the platform. But, those young guys played very well. What a problem when the team's going to be announced. Bundyaki and Henshaw play. I thought Henshaw was magnificent. Caelan Doris stepped up to the plate. Young Cormac Izachukwu did nothing wrong. Probably didn't excel like I'd hoped him to do with a few explosive runs, but certainly didn't make any errors and was positive. You come out of that when you make the second part and sort of builds on Alan's point. When you're a coach and you make that many changes, sometimes you can really disrupt the side. And that's not what you want to do. You're caught in these November internationals. We want to give young guys a go. We want to refresh the team. We want to give people opportunities. If you don't, you get damned as a coach. And if you do, sometimes the team loses its cohesion. And I think if Andy Farrell and his staff would be really pleased for all the reasons Alan said. Plus, we've blooded these young guys. We've given some other guys a second cap. We now got options. That creates competition within our squad. It's putting pressure on the older players to keep performing because they've got these young guys behind them. And we won by 50. So there is no negatives out of that whole, except a couple of injuries. It was very, very sad. I was very, very sad for Jacob Stockdale after all he's been through to see him do his hammy. And obviously Osborne, we believe, will be out with a. I saw them do the test on him. I don't know if Al, you saw it. We were watching the game, but they flashed to Osborne, and the doctor puts his hand between the guy's front of his knee and tells him to push in, which is automatically they're testing for a groin adductor injuries, and you can see the look on his face, and you don't recover from them too quick. So, like that, they were the negatives. I don't mean to be dismissive of the two individuals, but there were a lot more positives in that game for Ireland than there were negatives.
Let's hope Osborne and Stockdale are back in the pitch sooner rather than later. And Matt, you talked about team news. It's just been announced, and we'll play it in there. We'll go from 15 to down to the subs. Hugo Keenan, Mac Hansen, Robbie Henshaw, Anaki, Lowe. Prendergast starts again. That was the big talking point. Gibson Park back in at 9. Porter, Kelleher, Beelum, Joe McCarthy, James Ryan. Back row of Tagberg, Van der Flaer and Keelan Doris. The bench, Gus McCarthy, after the try-scoring debut, holds his place or comes on to it at 16. Cian Healy, who will be the record ever Irish player. Unbelievable achievement when he gets on. Tom O'Toole, Ian Henderson, Peter O'Mahony, Casey in at sub-9 after that performance, as you say, Matt. Jack Crowley onto the bench, used there, and Gary Ringrose at number 23. Alan, straight away, talking points. What do you make of the 23 there?
It's a very strong team. I suppose the big talking point is Sam Prendergast at 10. And that's what people will focus in on. I suppose Robbie Henshaw playing at 13 as well. Gary Ringrose is on the bench, so that's a big call there. But
let's talk about the 10, Alan. Did you think he'd go back to Jack Crowley? I think most people did. What was your take?
Most people did, I think. But again, we talk about Fiji last week and opportunity. I think there was lots of opportunity, front foot ball for Sam Prendergast and Craig Casey, and they both did really well. I thought Casey, his delivery was exceptional. So they were on the front foot. So focusing on that situation, Jack Crowley would have loved to have been in the front foot there against Fiji for that game. He did really well against Argentina in the first half when Ireland were pretty dominant and winning collision. Second half against Argentina, not so much so. They're under pressure. But, there's been so much chat in the last couple of weeks about this. And I think you have to trust Andy Farrell. I think he's seen stuff here. There's an exceptional talent in both those players. He's seen something around the balance or what Sam Prendergast can bring, and selects him this week. So maybe there's a little bit of cohesion or glue that's sticking this attack together a bit better, and they see that in training. So it's it is a big call, and there'll be a lot of focus on that. And it's a big day for him. He's a wonderful player and a wonderful talent. I think they're different, a little bit different, whereas Jack is probably a more physical type presence. He runs into traffic contact a lot. He's not afraid of that. He's very physical. He's a really strong defender. He poaches ball at breakdowns. We haven't seen that side of Sam Prendergast again. I think he took umbrage to someone asking about his physical presence, and he's
light was the word.
He was a little bit light. He didn't like it, yeah. And that's not to say that he doesn't get stuck in and be physical. He's lucky he didn't get a red card last week. It could have been upgraded. There's not an intention there, but it was a very clumsy one from him. But aside from that, it's a big call. As I said again last week, I just hope it doesn't affect Jack Crowley in a really negative way now. He'll obviously be disappointed. He's got to show character now. I know he's a lot of character, and he's shown that he's a tough operator. But he's got to take this one in the chin. It's a great moment for Sam Prendergast and a big day out. And I'm sure they, like we said, and we probably spoke about this last week, Tuisova, Nikolaevu, some of those Fijian back rows, they didn't really get at Sam Prendergast because Ireland had so much possession. But Joe Schmidt and Australia was.
Harry Wilson and Skelton might just
they might
go against that trend and run straight at him.
They might, and they may not get the opportunity either. As you know, I think there's not a lot said about Josh van der Fleer over the autumn, but even in I just think he's been standout as regards his energy, fitness, work rate, all that kind of stuff. And he's got to try and protect him as Bundy Hackey on the outside is. So yeah, it's a big call. I think the rest of the team, as I said, just talking about the Robbie Henshaw one, if you ask me who would I play there, it would be Gary Ringrose before this. But again, you're splitting hairs, and again, they're probably seeing stuff in training here. And the Australian centres, particularly Suali, he's a special talent, isn't he? And if he starts on Saturday, Robbie Henshaw's an intelligent player, so he'll have a big task on his hand. But he showed last week and reminded people how good he is. But other than that, the pack picks itself, great for Gus McCarthy. It's not so good for Rob Herring, but he hasn't a lot of rugby played. So again, Gus McCarthy standing out last week has propelled him onto the bench for Ireland, which is special and a big moment for him again.
Matt, just one more on the Prendergast. We've spoken over the last couple of weeks, and I suppose it doesn't really matter now, but 4 weeks ago, unless I'm totally wrong, I wouldn't have thought Andy Farrell would have been thinking in his head Sam Prendergast will start 2 1/4 games, if that makes sense. 2 games and come on the pitch for 20 minutes in a game against Argentina as well. Which way do you see it? And would you have gone with Crowley?
Stu, I think your observation's 100%. I didn't have any idea that Prendergast would be getting this much time. But I'll come and align myself with Al again. When he said you got to trust Farrell, there's a couple of things we can read into this. One is the young man's given an opportunity and he's grabbed it. And as Alan says, coaches watch training as well. It's not just we see games, but they see training. What are guys doing at training? What are they adding? The second part of this, now you guys just check me on. I was desperately looking through my notes and I couldn't find it. When Australia last played in Ireland in November, was just before the World Cup, so it's November 2022, and I want to say that Crowley started that game.
He did indeed.
He did.
That was just sort of making his first, because he spoke about it. He spoke about it before, yeah.
Yeah, and Ross Byrne was on the bench, came and kicked a goal, which eventually won the game for Ireland. If you are going to give a young guy a go, now's the time to do it. So I think what Crowley's got to do is accept the kick in the bum. Go away and work hard at your game. He's got plenty of time to the Six Nations. But in the coach's mind, you're thinking, if something happens to Crowley and we want Prendergast to start in the Six Nations, let's give him time now against a good side. Because this, in the long run, this game's for Ireland, it means nothing. We'll come to Australia. This means the world to Australia. But for Ireland in the long run, this is a win or a loss, and I think they will win. But a win or a loss doesn't mean anything. So let's give the young guy some game time, big pressure. First tier 1 team who's beaten England recently. Let's see what he's made of. If it doesn't work out, doesn't matter. We've got Crowley on the bench. So I think for me, Jack is still the number 1. And I think he needs to accept that.
He's still the number 1 man.
Yeah,
really?
For me, yeah. If you're playing France or England at home, which Ireland will be in the first game, I think that the selection would have been different. I'm not saying this selection is wrong. I can understand why the selection has been made. Just like they picked Crowley against Australia a few years ago. Give the young guy the opportunity on a big stage not against a second-tier team, but a top-tier team who have just beaten England. Give him the opportunity. Let's learn. And I think that's a brave thing from Farrell, but I think it's also the right thing in the long run. Because if we dig a little bit deeper, Gus McCarthy, I wouldn't have had Gus McCarthy anywhere near this team at the beginning of November. He came out and played.
5-6 choice at Leinster, Matt. 5-6 choice.
Well, Al's going to be on the phone as his agent, getting him down to wear a red jersey next year. Like you're going to get him up north, one or the other. But
you wouldn't pay his tolls, Matt, like yourself.
but Gus McCarthy has earned his way in. I was a little surprised. I thought, and I can see why they don't want to make too many, but that bench, as I said before, has scored 0 points in the last 2 games they came on, the New Zealand and Argentinian game. So, Peter O'Mahony and those boys, you mightn't want to change too much. If we're going to put Prendergast and McCarthy in, we don't want to change a whole lot around. We still want a lot of experienced dudes there, and they've got it. Gary Ringrose coming there. What do you do with those 3? No matter which way you go with the 3 centres, you're going to leave one of the great players out. So I can understand it, and I hope the young man has a great game. I agree with Quinny. He's got heaps of talent. He showed he's got the mental fortitude last week. And best to find out and give him experience now than to see if there's an injury to Crowley going closer towards the Six Nations. And Farrell, I think one of his strengths is he's a good selector. So let's just go with it for that.
Alan, let's bring it to the opposition. Joe Schmidt back in town. No doubt there'll be a master plan. Their team's in. I'll run through them as well. Slipper, Amosa, Tanley Tupu, Nick Frost, Williams, Rob Valentini, McWright, so he's back in. Harry Wilson, captains for number 8. Jake Gordon, Salo, who keeps at 9 and 10. Jorgensen, who come on against Scotland's on the left wing. Ikitau, Sohaili, who's in there, so he's fit. Callaway, Tom Wright, and then on the bench, Billy Pollard, Angus Bell, Alatoa, Lotu, Gleeson, Tate McDermott, the 9, the scrum half, who adds plenty. When he comes on, Edmund and Harry Potter, who scored last week in his debut against Scotland. So he's made a few changes.
Yeah, and that's not surprising given the result they had against Scotland. I think from an Irish point of view, it probably would have suited better if they'd won. I think it would have brought a bit more hype to this weekend.
Tell me this, Alan. They all say one game at a time, but surely Joe Schmidt had a wee bit down the track and was looking for Ireland.
I don't think he would have.
Not at all.
I think his players, maybe some of them maybe had, and they were just, look, I think it's a 6-day turnaround for them as well, this one. So that's why there's a few changes there. And I think that the emotion of obviously Twickenham was such a big win for them. The excitement in the end, the way they won it right at the death. I thought that was an incredible performance, and they stood up to a very physical English side and caused them a lot of problems. I think that will do them the world of good going forward. That obviously they'll want to be stronger defensively, but the dominance they showed against Wales, and unfortunately Wales are in that position at the moment. So it's hard to read too much into that one, and that's why I wasn't convinced with them going to Murrayfield. Scotland have proved that the weekend that they have a little bit of an edge to them. Their physical side. I think Glasgow winning in the URC, some may not think it's relevant, but I thought that was a bit of growth as regards, we can step up and win a trophy here, and they did that so well, Glasgow, against the Bulls in the final of that URC, and it gives you a little bit of a lift. So Scotland we've questioned their probably consistency over the years and maybe their ability to dominate the opposition physically. But look, it could be a bit of a false dawn, but I just think there's a little bit of an edge coming to them. Their cohesion, and they played really well at the weekend. They were dominant side against Australia, and it took them a while.
Ireland in the last game of the Six Nations.
Ireland destroyed them at the World Cup last year, but they did push Ireland, and that's the problem. It's up down with them. That's the challenge for Scotland. But it was a dominant physical performance, and Australia struggled against them. I know they had some opportunities in the game, and they had some injuries in the build-up, which unsettled them a little bit. So anyway, I was just thinking, God, Scotland, Australia win at the weekend, and then it's their Grand Slam opportunity, and it just brings more hype to the game. I still think it's a very dangerous game for Ireland. I think Australia, it's one last push, end of season stuff. They have some serious threats and danger in that back line. Slipper and Taniela Tupou at tight head. They've got Angus Bell and Alatoa to come on. So they have a few options off the bench. They're a dangerous side if they get some front foot ball, and Ireland have got to be better than they were, probably more consistent. They've shown glimpses. Probably the best glimpses they showed was early on against the All Blacks, and in that first half against Argentina as well. So but Joe will fancy this, and he'll have picked every little possible opportunity available to him with this Irish side, and I think this is the one that he will really, really want to. He'd love to get a result on Saturday, because he had a disappointing end, Joe. With Ireland, the World Cup, and he had done such a brilliant job. Brought a different level to this Irish team, and obviously with Leinster, and it was a pity it ended like that, and in that sort of disappointment. So yeah, he'd love to come back here and get a big result, and plus he's got a job. He's with Australia now. He's trying to change their culture. Matt talks about it all the time. The pressures they're under from other sports in Australia, the perception of rugby there. It didn't help him. David Campese a few weeks ago out berating him, basically saying that he shouldn't be there, and that he doesn't know what kind of game they're playing, and there shouldn't be an outsider coach in the team. And then last week he's saying, well, before Scotland, he's the right man for the job, and that he's proved David Campese wrong. So look, Joe's an intelligent guy, and as I said, he'll definitely try and find a way. But ultimately, his players have got to step up and go after an Irish side which have shown some vulnerabilities. So it's an intriguing game, really.
Matt, he's been in charge 12 games now, 6 wins, 6 losses, 18 debutants he's given new caps to, which is actually remarkable, but that's probably the state of a state in rugby. But the last couple of weeks, I know you can't take Scotland away, but the wins against England, as Alan mentioned, and Wales, do they give you more hope than it did, coming into this autumn? Like, what do you think Joe will be thinking? And obviously, it is a big one. Sandy Farrell's last one before he goes to the Lions. Of course, here playing Australia, and their mates as well. So there's a lot of subplots going on here.
Subplots everywhere, Stu. Subplots everywhere. The Lions tour to Australia could be the saving of the game down there financially. But if Australia go down and just get smacked, that's not going to be good, because when the Lions tour Australia and they come in winter, so right now there's no other winter codes. AFL and Rugby League are not being played, so Australia get that spotlight. The other codes can't believe the numbers that come to Australia from the north for the Lions tour, and it covers all media. And the country makes a fortune out of the tourists, but it covers all media. And if the Wallabies can win and compete, we get good coverage, which I just can't put across how important that is, because the game has just slipped in the hierarchy of Australian sport, where it used to be right at the top. You've got to delve in 3 or 4 pages off the back page to find anything on rugby. So this and here's the other one. Australia have beaten England and Wales. Now, but if they can beat Ireland, to come out of 3 out of 4 against the teams that are going to make up the Lions, one, it gives the Australians massive confidence, boosts the series, but it also puts doubt into the minds of those that will tour. Well, maybe this isn't going to be as easy as everyone said. And I don't think
imagine saying Australia would win 3 out of 4 and Ireland would only win 2 out of 4.
Yeah.
Before November.
Unheard of.
People said you lost your mind, mate.
Yeah. Well, let's come back, Stu, to the fact the stats you threw at me. Let's remember, 3 of those wins were Joe's 6 wins. 3 were against Wales and 1 was against Georgia. So we've got to keep it in perspective. And I'm not blaming Josie. I don't think this is a coach's problem. Let's look at they beat Argentina in a test in Argentina. Next test in Argentina, they're leading at half-time. I want to say 17-16. It might have been 18-17. In that second half, the Wallabies concede over 40 points. That's not a coaching issue. That's, what do the coach say at half-time? Do you abuse them because they're ahead by a point? No, that sits with the players. You see the Wallabies play 80 minutes of good rugby against England, but England were poor. We've got to say England threw that game away. Wales were pretty ordinary. And then they come to Murrayfield. We're back to where we were 10 months ago. The error rate, the poor decisions were just – they are not coaching. Their coaching is – the first restart didn't go 10 metres. I can't remember when I saw that in a test match. First restart. And we have a problem with the players. And that is about the production line, where they come from, and the standards. Now, Quinny mentioned standards. Joe is putting in new standards, and that is having an effect. But that will take time. What Wallaby team will turn up this Saturday at the Aviva? Don't ask me, because they don't know. They haven't got a clue, because it would have turned up the other week. They are fatigued. I think that's why they've made so many changes, and good changes. I think it's a good side that Joe's put. I'm just looking at it here. Something for everyone to know. We're 2 hookers down. So Pangai Mosa and Billy Millard, they're probably 3 and 4, maybe 4 and 5 on the hookers list. But you've got Tupou back at tight head. That front row is very fresh. Frost wasn't, and Jeremy Williams pulled out just before the game last week. Frost was not supposed to play, so he had a pretty easy week last week. Was thrown back in just in the warm-up because Williams pulled out. Valentini, McWright and Wilson are a very good back row. Keep your eye on Fraser McWright. He's playing exceptional open side, as an exceptional quality open side flanker at the moment. Here's your problem. Our 9 and 10s right through. And
you've said that for a while, Matt.
Yeah,
you've said 9 and 10.
No, I had a shock.
He sort of kept them pretty consistent, hasn't he? Like, he obviously sees something matters, or is the depth not there?
The depth's the problem. Joe's credit, he's given these people plenty of time. And the Australians are winning without good halves. He's got a guy called Tane Edmund. I think I was speaking about this on the pod a couple of weeks ago. This is the first time he brought him on tour. This is the first time he's getting a chance. He's on the bench. He is the best attacking 10 in the side. It's his defensive qualities that are questioned. I'm glad he's getting a go. I'm glad it's getting a go. And obviously you've got Suwali coming back in. It was a disaster. We thought he broke his arm last week. It's not, but he's starting there. That is a pretty, and the bench is pretty decent. Australia are going to have huge motivation because of what we said about the Lions tour. Joe's going to have massive motivation. It's going to be an unbelievable night that way. I think Ireland will win because you just don't know which Australian side's going to turn up. The finish, 4 halves against New Zealand. They played 2 games, 4 halves. 2 quality, 2 rubbish. 2 quality games against England and Wales. Absolutely horrid against Scotland. And that's Joe's problem. And that is really not Joe's problem. It's the boys who wear the jerseys. They've got to drive their own standards and make their own decisions and keep them at high quality. If they do, they've shown that they can compete with good sides like Ireland. They can't compete with South Africa, but they've competed with the New Zealanders at times, competed with the Argentinians, and they can compete against Ireland if they turn up at their best. If they turn up like they did against Scotland, Ireland will put 40 on.
Alan, if we go back to that World Cup quarter-final, Schmidt was part of the All Blacks coaching staff. They scored that try from the line out, straight through the middle. Well, Jordan, that clearly came from his playbook. Also, they actually let Ireland attack out wide, didn't they, New Zealand? And then they sort of just let them have the ball and then made the shots wide and sort of let Ireland have the possession for a while, if that's fair to say. Which type of plan do you think Schmidt will go with? Yes, very different caliber of players, or slightly different anyway. But do you think he will have that wee bit more, I suppose, that, not master plan, a wee bit magic, that's something we mightn't expect? Or do we watch so much rugby nowadays, it'll just be the same Australia that played against, or the same type of Australia that played in the last 3 games?
Yeah, I think they've got to be brave in their attack. And I think I mentioned the English game, they've got some great tries there, and they were pretty cohesive in trying to retain possession. So if you want to cause Ireland problems, you try and attack them. How do you do that? You hold on to the ball for long periods and you limit your mistakes. So I think, yes, of course, Joe will be really detailed on breakdown and trying to limit their mistakes. And then try and get them to the players that have excited Kellaway, Suali, these kind of players who can do something special, and they want to get the ball in their hands. So you could expect some sort of a strike play. I don't think Ireland will be caught.
Surely Ireland know that's going to come, but that's easier said than done when they run it.
Yeah, well, look, the prime example is New Zealand hadn't done a 4-man lineout in 2 years. That was the crazy stat that was out there. They hadn't, had that set up in a 4-man lineout for that try for Will Jordan, where Moanga goes straight through.
That's all Joe. That is all Joe in your eyes.
Yeah, and he identified something that was there, that Ireland are a little bit stretched and maybe vulnerable. Look, you make one mistake in a game, and without being punished for it by the opposition, coaches will look at these kind of things and think there might be a chance that a similar situation will happen. And maybe that's what happened. I hadn't seen anyone busting through Ireland in that position. I think Richie Moanga did brilliantly with the hold the ball, throw a dummy. Once he gets through, then that created the confusion and obviously a try that seals a win for New Zealand. So Joe will really hope that his team are can stand up early on tomorrow and be in a position like they were against England, making it difficult for England, even though England, physically kind of got some tries and looked like the dominant team from a physicality point of view. Australia looked like the team who had those silky skills and were going to score really good tries, if you like. So yeah, look, I think ultimately, it's just probably let's expect something from Joe here from an attacking point of view. But I think he's going to try and he'll want his forwards and to deliver a performance and go after Ireland's source, and then hope that the likes of Valentini that Matt mentioned and Fraser McWright can turn Ireland over and win physical collisions at the breakdown and unsettle them. But also Lolasio at 10. Is he a kick and fly half? Is he a running fly half?
Is he a fly half?
Yeah, but I don't think he's a kick and fly half. I think he's more of a running kind of player and wants to attack and all that. And that's great if you're on the front foot and you're dominant against a team like they were against Wales and stuff. But I think territory is important, because I feel Ireland are going to try and squeeze Australia a little bit at the weekend. But look, Australia had a little dip against Scotland, but winning against England and Twickenham was a big result for them, and it was an important result, and it was a kind of a reminder for Ireland, particularly a little. Just be wary here, very wary, because I think they would have been disappointed with what happened in Murrayfield, and they probably believe, and I believe there's better in them. They still physically they were off it a little bit, and they looked a little bit tired in Murrayfield, but they still at times, looked like a team that could cut Scotland apart. So if Ireland give them those chances and they take them, well, they'll grow in confidence then, So they're a very dangerous side, and but we're probably hoping that Ireland will be, galvanized and a little bit better, and that there's been a steady improvement since that disappointing opening night in November against the All Blacks.
Well, if history tells you Ireland have dominated the fixture, won the last 3, and then only lost 1 out of the last 6, and then you have to go back to 2013. Last time Australia won in Dublin. Cooper was at 10. It's a very different Australia now. What gives you the hope that he can go and, I suppose, spoil the Irish party and get it done?
Twickenham.
Just Twickenham?
Just Twickenham. I didn't think. I thought Australia would beat Wales, but I thought that would be the only win they got on this tour before they got here.
And where's the creeks in Ireland, Matt? You know, last week you were saying Prendergast sometimes, if I'm right, takes it too close to the line.
Yeah.
Joe will be watching that like the hawk, won't he?
Yeah. Against you, I think, I don't think the Ireland are playing as well as they have. Young Prendergast is not a gamble, but they're giving a young player time, a young 10 opportunities. I don't think it's weaknesses. It's how well this Australian team can play. Like, to beat Ireland, you've got to play really well. You've got to be a good team. Like, we saw New Zealand beat Ireland in the first game, but New Zealand played really well. Like, you've got to give them credit. But when South Africa beat them in the first test, South Africa played well. But England beat them at Twickenham, England played quite well. So you can't. It's not about, when we're talking about an Australian win, it's not so much about Irish weaknesses, because the English, we remember at Twickenham, I heard some of the ex-internationals bagging Joe Schmidt beforehand, as well as bagging the Australian team. So they didn't respect Joe. Like, there's no way this Irish team doesn't respect Joe Schmidt. So that, and as you said, Andy Farrell's his protege, and Andy knows he's facing him in the Lions tour, comes in 7 or 8 months' time. So Ireland aren't showing the mental and emotional weaknesses that the English did at Twickenham. My question is, this Australian team is emerging. And I'll just quickly, like, you need 20 tests around that 20 mark. You look at the forward pack, Slipper 142, Payanga 19, Towner 57, Frost 24, Williams is the only one with 9, Valentini 51, Fraser, and this is the key, Fraser McWright 24, Wilson 24, Jake Gordon 28, Lucio 28. Like, you're starting to get 30, 36, Tom Wright. You're starting to get a number of that Australian team out of the teens and the 10s and into the 20s and 30s with experience. That means you're more comfortable being in test match environment. You're used to it. You know what's coming. And if we compare that, to Prendergast this week, he's not used to it, nor should he be. So I think this is an Australian side that's not a classic Australian side. It's not a great team. It's not a wonderful team, but they're becoming more competent. But they haven't been doing it for 80 minutes. If they can put together a competent 80 minutes, they've got some firepower now that we haven't had. Wright is playing brilliantly at fullback. He didn't play particularly brilliantly last week, but no one did. He has been playing really well. He's a supreme athlete, and he hasn't shown it. He's just starting to show it. And again, if you've got Suwali at 13 and his arm's not too bad, this guy is a superstar. He's potentially a world.
He's a match winner on his own, isn't he, man?
Yeah. He's a potential World Rugby Player of the Year in the future. He's the real deal. So all of a sudden you get a couple of these guys, and you get Fraser McWright playing really well at 7. You're getting Valentini playing superbly at 6, and the captain Harry Wilson. He was probably one of the only guys that came off Murrayfield who could hold his head up, so he had a very good game. So if and this is the problem with what you're saying. Look at all the ifs I've just had to put in place.
Every other word was an if. There's no comments.
It doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean it's impossible. But there's a bloody lot of ifs got to happen for the Wallabies to beat a very, very good Irish team, even if they got young Prendergast there. I'll tell you one strategy that I think, looking at that selection Joe's got, he's relying on his bench to do a hell of a lot. He's done his homework and said, well, Ireland are the team, of the top 10 teams, Ireland have scored the least points in the last 20 minutes over the last, I want to say 8 games, it might be 6 games. So he's saying, if we can be there or thereabouts in the last 20, I think we can score some more points. Thus, Edmed on the bench, who is a good attacker. Not a great defender, but a good attacker. So there's one thing that I would read into Joe's selection. Plus, you're a tired team, but I think Joe is, you talk to all the Leinster and Irish guys, what Joe is very good at is with a tired team coming to their last big game of the year, he really backs off during the week and just focuses on the psychological. And it's a homecoming for him. He's really, really going to want to do it out there for all the reasons we said, personal, for the Lions and everything. A beautiful 150-year jersey to swap. It is a gorgeous Irish jersey they're wearing this year. I hope the Australians wear their gold and Indigenous jersey with the Indigenous designs on it, because that too is a fabulous jersey. I'm a traditionalist. When I see that beautiful green of the Emerald of Ireland, this traditional old one, against that gold, the wattle gold of Australia, it's one of the great sights of world rugby. So it's I'm looking forward to the experience. I can claim Irish heritage if they win, and I can fall back where I'm born if they don't. But I don't think I'd love Australia to win because the country needs it so badly. But I think that's a massive, massive ask.
Keep your predictions for the next minute too. Alan Quinlan, I think it's about to fall asleep there. All he's been doing is Sean.
Bit of tiredness.
Last night, were you tired? Too much traveling. Alan, just quickly in 60 seconds because we actually need to wrap up. If Ireland were to lose at the weekend, there will be negative Nelly. Jeez, I'm turning into that person. How big a blow would that be before Simon Easterby comes in charge and then England is the first game in the Six Nations?
Yeah, anytime. I think, given the loss against, if they got through New Zealand, it'd be all totally different. We nearly lost this game 2 years ago to Australia, 13-10. They had a maul at the end of the match. Controversial alignment of the way they built that maul, and some backs joined and they went ahead of whoever was controller of the ball at the back of the maul. They were penalised. Letter of the law, yes, correct, but we never really had seen them being penalised in such a crucial moment there. They were kind of rumbling forward. So Australia could have won that game. I expect a big surge from them at the weekend, and Ireland have got to play well. My hope is that this isn't the team that played against Fiji. This is your first choice starting team.
Best performance.
I hope that the best performance is coming here. If we lose this game, I think it'd be very negative, and it'd be very difficult to pick them up, and there would have been to be a lot of talk about, breaking up the squad and bringing in more younger players again. Which is difficult to do when that quality isn't always there. But the big positive is the Sam Prendergast, Cormac Izuchuku, Gus McCarthy in the last couple of weeks, the prop. That made his debut against Argentina as well. I'm gone blank. The Leinster prop,
Clarkson.
Thomas Clarkson. Yeah. So that they're four big positives. We saw Jamie Osborne making his debut in South Africa as well. So there's 4 or 5 players that are new on the team since the summer. So it's not as quick in other countries because we don't have the depth immediately to get them in there. But they need to win. Ireland, I think, if they don't win this game, there'll be people, it will concern all of us going forward that there needs to be a bit more change. Well, look, I think maybe we're spoiled with the expectation and the heights that we've had and the level of performance. But look, that's rugby and that's sport in general. You have these cycles, and the challenge is kind of keeping it going and gradually making some changes as you go along. So look, we have a very good coaching team. We've some very good players. Some of them won't go to the next World Cup. And Saturday is an important. I think that if they win, it just gives it like the reaction that we saw in South Africa. And I probably referenced this, and I probably will for a long time. They lose the first test, and they come out and they remind everyone the week after that they're still a very, very good side. So they probably need something like that at the weekend. Okay, Matt, straight to you. Predictions.
Heart says Australia, head says Ireland. Ireland, I think, will win the game. As I said before, Australian rugby really needs it, but I just think it might be a bridge too far. But I like Al. I'm expecting a much, much better performance from the Australians than we saw at Murrayfield. If the Australian team that played at Twickenham turns up, I think it will be a great game and they could win. But I don't have a lot of evidence to say that's going to be the case. And I think that Irish team... Ireland, Justin. Yeah, too much class. And Al? Yeah, probably there's 12 of these guys started against England. They scored 42 points. So if they score 42 points against Ireland, they'll win again. I think they're a dangerous side, but I think maybe we're wrong. And I think Ireland will be better. I think there'll be a bit of hunger and a real determination for them to win. So Ireland by 8 or 10 points. Matt, will I predict this week? Anyone care? Yeah, here you go, Stu. Come on, you've been good. You've shamed us. You've shamed us all November. Not even fair. Australia by a couple. There you go. Oh, right. Stu.
Matt and Alan, thanks very much. Should be good. Make sure to tune in. Ireland against Australia, 150-year anniversary for the RFU. What a game it's going to be in the afternoon on Virgin Media 1.